holiday soon and I really want a bigger bum and a smaller waist. Can you help?
Look, if you wanna come gym, make sure you put the work in. Some wanna get fit, some wanna get slim, some wanna start competing, but enough of them just can't stop cheating. When their belly is full, they're still eating. Me, I practice what I'm teaching. They don't live what they're preaching.
What's up, Fit Fam? This is Giovanni of Gio's Logic, your host of Fitness Junkies. I hope this show meets you in good health and fitness, and if not, I hope it inspires you to do something about it. Well, I'm so excited. I grabbed this girl from the Olympia Expo, and she agreed to do the show today, the day after Olympia Expo. And how are you?
I'm great.
Thank you so much.
Of course, I'm excited to be here.
So yeah, I was telling you, I found you on YouTube. I never find any guests on YouTube, but I came across one of your videos, and you were so good. I was like, oh my God, I gotta get. And I never imagined that you were gonna be here. Mm-hmm. I mean, you're a competitor, so it could happen, but it just turned out. I love when whatever cosmic.
It all just fit perfectly.
Yeah.
And I was actually supposed to be leaving today.
Right.
But I extended it.
Nice.
And then you messaged me and I was like, perfect.
Right.
It's meant to be.
Right.
So I'm glad.
So here we're at Strength Culture in Las Vegas. And so everyone that I talk to in your seat has a fitness journey. Something in their life that kind of drove them down this pathway to fitness and like ultimate fitness like you. What's your story and how did you get here?
So I've always been an athlete. I was a wrestler. That's kind of what brought me to bodybuilding.
Wow.
And it's so weird seeing it now because they're very similar in the way that you have to prepare for them. Except for bodybuilding, it's more like preparing for your physique to look a certain way, and for wrestling, it's preparing to weigh a certain amount.
Right.
Because you weigh in for competitions and stuff.
Right.
So from the age of 15 to 18, I was the only girl on an all-boys wrestling team. So it was me and my brother were the captains my sophomore year and his senior year.
Where was this?
In Texas, San Antonio.
Okay.
So I wasn't going to do wrestling, especially because much like bodybuilding, it's a male-dominant sport. So is wrestling. So when you're a woman and you go into one of these sports, people have a lot of stuff to say about it. Either really good and they support it, or they're like, what are you doing? Go back to your place.
Right.
So I had a lot of that in wrestling, and I still have that a lot in bodybuilding today. But it was the best decision I ever made, because my brother, I always like to say I was my brother's little brother, because he never had a little brother, so he'd practice his wrestling moves on me, and he realized that like I could keep up, and my dad would be like yelling at us from downstairs because we'd be like wrestling, and he would like hear all of the what's going on, and my dad always says like I was beating him up, but he gave me the courage to do that. I was like, no, I'm gonna get made fun of. I should do something like dance or like volleyball or, like that. And I went ahead and did it. And I remember there's this moment where it was the summer going into high school, and I had to make a decision on what I was going to do. And I was hanging out with my friends, and we were wrestling, and I picked up one of my friends. And this is a silly way to make the decision of doing bodybuilding or of doing wrestling, but it's very true. I picked her up and I like threw her and slammed her on the ground, and she like couldn't breathe, so she like lost, like took the breath out of her, and all of them go rushing, and I stood there like, and there was like this light bulb moment that I was like, this is a great feeling. Are you okay? But also this is such a cool feeling. And then I went home and was like, I'll do it. I'll be a wrestler. So I did that for a couple of years. I got some offers from colleges, but went the completely opposite route and went and did hair and makeup for a couple of years, and that was what I thought was going to be what I did for the rest of my life, but the universe had other plans. So I completely fell off from working out during that time. I was smoking, I was drinking, I was gossiping with my salon friends after work, and I remember looking at myself in the mirror and I didn't recognize myself. Like, I knew that I was an athlete. I knew that There was something more that I was supposed to be doing. There was a bigger impact that I was supposed to be making. I didn't know what it was at the time. I didn't think it was going to be bodybuilding.
Right.
And I started like slowly getting back into fitness, stop drinking, stop smoking, stop going out so much, stop putting so much negative crap into my energy. And my life started to change drastically. Not only my physique, but my work life, my relationships. And I was like, there's something to this stuff.
Right.
Because it wasn't just this external transformation that I had, it was very much internal.
Right.
And if I was like, I have to tell everybody, I have to scream it from the rooftops.
Right.
And one of my Pilates instructors was actually 2 weeks out from the bikini show. And I was doing Pilates for a little bit now, and I said, if I keep doing these classes, will I look like you? And she was like, no. And I was like, then I quit. I want to do what you do. And she's like, I'm a bodybuilder. I was like, I want to do that. So then I became a bodybuilder. So that's what kind of brought me here, long-winded, but yeah.
Wow. So talk a little bit more about that, that feeling, that energy that you get from eating clean and pushing your body to levels that you didn't think it could be pushed to.
Yeah.
Like you talked about your cardio during your last prep that like was really breaking you down.
Yes.
Talk about just the energy that this lifestyle puts into it.
I think what it all comes down to is when you're typically at your lowest point, usually when it's with your physique, it's because you keep making promises to yourself that you're going to change and you don't. So you wake up every day and you say, today's the day that I'm going to make a change, and you don't. Today's the day that I'm not going to snooze my alarm, and you snooze it. Today's the day that I'm not going to go drinking, and you still do it. When you keep promises to yourself, your confidence builds. When you don't keep the promises that you make to yourself, your confidence just gets knocked. And then you get to the point where you can't even trust your own word.
Right.
You can't trust yourself to do what you say you're going to do.
Right.
And then you don't even believe that you have the ability to reach your goal because you keep using your past as proof for why you can't change in the present or the future.
Oof, that's a drop mic. This girl's so good. Wow, that was so on point. So, I know a lot of women especially find a new level of confidence when they change their body, and men too. Talk about that aspect of it.
I feel like when I was talking about my story before, I had spent so much of my time when I was at the lowest of not keeping the promises that I made to myself. And then I started doing it was even the little things, like not snoozing my alarm, like going to the gym when I said I was going to go to. I wasn't a bodybuilder at that time. I wasn't a IFBB pro or anything, but it gave me that momentum. And then I started to believe in myself more and believe in myself more. And what happens is when you start to do that, you expand your capacity to handle more. So then you say, okay, well, if I can go 5 times, maybe I can go 6 times. If I can drink a half gallon of water, maybe I could drink a gallon of water. So I went from that girl who was doing nothing, smoking cigarettes, barely drinking any water, living off of coffee, to somehow being an IFBB pro, and it was all of those little steps along the way that got me there. So because every day I knew that I'm doing what I say that I'm going to do, I didn't have this shadow above me, this cloud around me, so my energy was different.
Right.
Because I could walk into a room and be like, I know that I'm doing the things that I say that I'm going to do.
Right.
And I'm holding myself accountable. When you don't do that, you kind of like,
Right.
you shy away. You walk into a room, your energy's different. Sometimes you're angry.
Right.
Or when you see other successful people, you get angry at them because maybe you
Jealous.
wish you can do that.
Yeah.
And the thing is that they can.
Right.
You just, baby steps.
So those little wins,
They matter.
Yeah, they build up.
They really do.
They create momentum.
Yeah, it started just me going to Pilates classes and hiding in the back.
Right.
Like all the way to, okay, well, maybe I have the courage to be a bodybuilder. That gave me the courage to quit my job in 2020 and start a business.
Which is?
The know your power.
Which is?
Which is know your power. Oh, know your power is my coaching business.
Okay.
It's my whole brand, my podcast. It's everything that I stand for.
Which amazing.
And knowing your power is what I realized during that journey, is that I was so much more powerful than I thought. And I know that so many people listening to this are as well. And knowing your power is that undeniable belief in yourself and your ability to be the creator of your reality. And that's what I did. I wanted so badly to be where I am now, and I was able to create it. So if I was, why wouldn't anyone else be?
Right. So let's dissect that a little bit. You coach people, sounds like emotionally and physically?
Yeah, it's like emotional intelligence meets physical. So that's the one thing that's different about Know Your Power, is that we focus heavily on the emotional intelligence aspect of it, because I know that most of the time, the reason people can't reach their physique goals, it starts there.
The kind of mental,
it always starts
emotional,
there.
Yeah.
I mean, the one example that I use for people is when you're doing cardio and it gets hard and challenging, what's the first thing that tells you to get off the machine?
Your mind.
It starts there. The mind tells the body to get off.
Right.
So why are we not focusing on the mind and the body together?
Yeah.
So that's what Know Your Power is.
Love it.
And we do like women's retreats and stuff like that too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and which
awesome.
have really nothing to do with fitness whatsoever. We do have like a leg day that we do at the very end, but all of it is that inner work, because that was the biggest transformation for me.
Right. Let's talk a little bit more about the coming of all this to being on stage as bodybuilder competitor. You're in wellness, right? So you're on stage and you're bringing all this to the table, the emotional, the mindset, the physical. What does that do to a person? And then like there's different sides of it. There's winning.
Yes.
And there's losing.
Yes.
There's a lot there.
Yeah, and you're gonna do all of it in life and in bodybuilding. And if we're talking about bodybuilding specifically, as long as you're learning something and getting better and evolving in this journey, to me, you're not losing. Every single time that I prep, and the reason that I prep and continue to do it is because I know that each time I do it, I learn something new about myself. I get better, I evolve. Whether it's physically I change, spiritually, emotionally, so many of those things happen, especially in this last prep. You know, I learn something new each time about myself, and I get better. And that's why I love bodybuilding, and I encourage a lot of people to get into it, because you will test your limits mentally and physically. And your shadows, they'll show up. They'll show up. And you can either face them head on, or you can continue to bury them down. And I choose to face them during prep, because sometimes when you are in that really low state, those shadows will come out and you didn't know they were there, because you spent so much time pushing them down. You're like, oh man. And you need to shine a light on them, because they've been in the dark for such a long time. So that's why I keep bodybuilding. You know, and if I win, I win. If I don't, I don't. And as
Growth
long
mindset.
as long as I know like I got something out of this, then I feel like I've already won. And I did.
So it sounds like your focus is women, but like I'm being inspired by what you're saying. It's
surprisingly
men.
I have a lot of guys that follow me too. I mean, even at the expo yesterday, I was surprised at how many men follow my YouTube channel and watch my prep journey because they're inspired. And a lot of like couples that watch me because they're inspired and they watch me together. And I was honestly kind of shook thinking that, because there's something different when, especially because where I came from wrestling, there's a lot of times where I was felt like less than and less important because I was a woman in a male dominant sport. So when a man can sometimes recognize that a woman can be just as badass and sometimes even better,
Right.
it's like, wow, thanks.
Right.
Thank you.
Right. So, I also like to ask a lot of questions about things going on in the world that we live in.
Okay.
You bring a great topic up, but the other side, women in male sports. What do you think about men that are transgender in women's sports? And do you think that's fair?
I don't know. I haven't experienced it myself, so I'm not sure.
Okay, let's take it to yourself. So if you had to compete, or maybe you did compete in wrestling against boys, how did you fare?
You know what? In the state of Texas, they actually don't allow that. I remember there was a time where I was going to compete against a male who was like my same weight, and I got to the mat and they like called the match.
Really?
Because it was like illegal in the state of Texas,
Right,
so
against
I
the
was
rules.
willing to do it. I was like, I'm ready to go. Like, let's do it.
I throw my brother around. He's
Yeah.
bigger than you.
Yeah, I feel like, but in that case, it's like we were stacked up at the same weight. So I
Right.
feel like that is a little bit more fair than maybe someone where their weight is different or someone's like muscle mass is completely different. Then that's when it's like, okay, I don't think it's that fair.
Right. And then there's been a lot of, you could have went down the MMA pathway,
I could've.
and you still can. You're not dead
Yeah.
yet. But there's been some stuff in like Olympic boxing where women that are transitioning men that are transitioning, playing in combat sports, which is kind of wrestling, they have an advantage as well, even though that sport is weight dominated.
True.
So
Maybe having a specific division
I
for
think
them.
so.
Like, why not?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to discriminate.
Yeah.
I just want it to be fair. And
Yeah.
there's differences between us. Why aren't we like?
I mean,
accept
because
them?
you
They're
have
beautiful.
Yeah, and I don't want anyone to be excluded from any of the sports because
Right.
I know, I mean, just as a woman feeling like excluded from certain things, I wouldn't want anyone to feel that way either.
Right.
But having imagine if me and you trained for bodybuilding and started at the same age. Like, it's different. You have years on me with testosterone, you know what I mean? So then it is just different. So
Right.
maybe giving their own category, and maybe then more people would fill that category up, which would be
Right.
awesome.
Right.
Yeah.
So one of the other topics I like to cover is the manosphere, and I met your fiance. He instantly I get it, Southern guy, just so nice, so inviting, and I'm like, that's the kind of guy I can see you with. And I didn't even know you.
Yeah. He's amazing.
But what do you think about alpha men and that whole nightmare that's going on for us single people?
It's dangerous. It's dangerous.
Right.
Some of the content that I have seen, luckily it doesn't show up on my feed very much, but it can be very dangerous, and I feel like it's centered around a lot of hate. And that doesn't, I don't want that message to be spread.
Well, because we all want to be loved.
Yeah.
And why is there so much hate?
I don't understand. You could be masculine and still be vulnerable and open and have that femininity in you, because those are more feminine qualities.
Right.
You can be both.
Right.
And just because you have some of those things doesn't make you any less than a man.
Right.
And my partner is a really good example of that. Like, you see him from the outside and he's very beard, tattoos, muscles, but he's very soft and open and vulnerable, and that's what I love about him the most.
Right.
And it doesn't make him any less than a man.
Yeah. And I hope, some of those messages get to these younger girls, because it's really in that kind of, I don't know, is it Gen Z or whatever generation?
Whatever letter we're on now, Gen whatever.
Right. What happens when we run out of alphabet?
I know.
Z.
We're already at Z.
Right.
Where do we go back? A?
So I want to touch on one other topic of the, I'm either winning or learning, but the difficulty of losing and having to deal with that, especially when you put yourself out there so much as far as I'm on stage, I'm in this little tiny bikini, and I'm accepting to be judged by people that don't look as good and don't do what I do, but and then dealing with that loss, because we're all human, we all kind of have to either learn to separate the two. Like, you're still a good person, you're still gorgeous, but you just didn't meet their criteria on that day.
Yeah.
But how do you deal with the loss?
I think it's knowing that your worth isn't attached to your placing or what your body looks like. And it's very easy to get those intertwined in this sport.
Yeah.
Whether same thing with social media. If I don't get enough likes, then I'm not worthy.
Right.
If nobody, watches my story, if no one comments,
Right.
It's so easy to get your worth attached with all of these things that don't really matter.
Right.
None of these things matter.
Right.
At the end of the day, I'm not going to be a bodybuilder forever. I'm not going to be on social media forever.
Right.
And the things that last are your friends and your family and what you love to do for, your work, maybe.
Right.
So I think when you lose, it's knowing that your worth isn't attached to what happens.
Right.
And this sport, you have to be okay with getting feedback.
Yeah.
Whether you want it or not. And especially if you're on social media. I don't even like these Olympians. One of them took his shirt off at the press conference, and everyone was saying right after that, "Oh, he's not ready."
And
he ends up taking the title. So you have to develop almost like a screening process for yourself of just, it doesn't matter what anyone else says about what I'm doing, because I know who I am.
Right.
And I'm going to go back to that root feeling of who I am. Everything else can just fade away.
Now, I agree 100%, but that's easier said than done,
100%.
because that voice, that negative voice that a lot of people listen to, keeps coming back, keeps going, "You're not good enough, you're not good enough." So do you have any practical like work-throughs? Do you do a affirmation stuff? What do you do to keep that voice down?
So sometimes for me, it's like an intrusive thought type of thing. So whenever those thoughts pop up, they just boom, boom, boom. And some days it's like you can't shake it.
Right.
So one thing that I've done that's like an actual tactical thing that people can do is I create triggers and reminders for me to stop doing that thing. So say I'm in my off season and I start putting on body fat and my body's changing and I keep looking at myself in the mirror and saying, "Oh, you're putting on body weight. Oh, you should, here. I will put a sticky note and I'll slap it on that mirror that I'm body checking, and it'll say, "Stop body checking." Because sometimes you need that pattern interruption for you to do something differently. Because right now you're just going from, oh, I looked at myself. Oh, I look terrible.
Right.
You're going from the thought to action.
Right.
So sometimes you need that pattern interruption of a sticky note, or one of your partners calling you out and saying, stop saying that about yourself. And
Right.
be like, "Oh, okay. I didn't even know that I was doing that," because we have little computers up here, and sometimes they just run.
Yeah.
So we need something to interrupt it so that we can make a different thought pattern, something that's more positive, that's actually going to help you instead of hurt you.
I love that. So we're gonna go into the posing room real quick, and you're gonna give hopefully some of the people that are watching maybe some tips on stage, and how there's so many. I just, when I look at these girls walking out in these heels, and they're some of them are doing the giddy up, and some of them, it's
everyone's so different. Everyone walks so differently.
But it's you guys have to do this dance between glamour chick and then bodybuilder, and it's like the guys don't have to walk out there in stilts or like they get to be on their feet.
And I think that that's one of the hardest things that a lot of women in the sport struggle with, is because bodybuilding, like at its core, is very masculine.
Right.
It requires a lot of the masculine qualities of like discipline, focus, especially like when you're in the gym pushing, and then when you get on stage, you need to adopt the feminine and go into just like surrendering and flow and everything. And that was really hard for me to do, because I was like, I lift weights and then having to go on stage and be like, but I'm a pretty little girl. It was really difficult. Right. So I'm excited to show them some things that helped me.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. Let's go.
Yeah. It's a lot.
The angle to the judges.
Angles.
Like how? It's just not fair.
It's not.
I mean, you guys do so much in the gym, as much as any guy. Maybe you don't lift as heavy, but like, I ask any bodybuilder to do one of your leg workouts. I think I've seen you take some guys to your leg workouts.
And they're like, wait, what?
Talk to me about like, how do you, like, is it 10,000 reps? How do you get to the point where you can kind of leave all the mental things that are going on? Did I do my pose? Did I do? Yeah. How do you get there?
It's just like in the gym. You just have to get reps in. Reps of doing it. And the way that I started adding more reps with posing is posing in between my sets at the gym. So I might not necessarily have my heels on at that moment, but while I'm doing my rest period, that can give me an opportunity to practice my quarter turns anyways, so I can still get the flow down and I get those extra reps. Or things like wearing your heels around your house. I was blessed to have a mom that is absolutely fabulous, and I've been wearing heels since I was a little girl. So when I worked at a salon, I wore heels all day at work, so I'm very good at walking in heels. But I wasn't good at necessarily a stage walk. Right. So some things that make it different and things that I teach my posing clients is, obviously, when you're walking, you don't want to walk same hand, same arm, because you look ridiculous. You want to do opposite hand, opposite arm. So if your left leg is going forward, your right arm is forward. There are some girls that like to walk with their hands out. They'll walk like this. And then there's some girls that like to walk with their hands dramatically in. That's how everyone's slightly different. I do a combination of both, maybe in one way and then having them out another way, but crossing over, heel toe, one way. Heel toe, the other way. And I know this seems like ridiculous when you're first starting off, but this is where I started, where I was like, okay, heel toe this way, heel toe this way. That's step one. Okay, well now how can I add more shape to my body when I walk so that I don't look like a board? Right. And that's by turning your belly button in that direction that the foot is walking. So if my left leg is going forward, I'm turning my belly button that way. Right. Away from the judges so that I have more shape. See, belly button this way. And it also brings that hip up too. So especially in wellness, you could see your glutes while you're walking in the front.
Oh, wow.
It's
wow. It's so much.
And you're always walking with your glutes up, no matter what you're doing. So you never just want to walk like this. You're always.
All this is so unnatural. How do you even think about all the poses that you have to hit? And that's why you see these girls, did I do the quarter turn? Did I? And they get confused.
So when you first start practicing posing, it's going to be a lot of you watching yourself in the mirror saying, okay, my hip is this way and my hand is this way. Okay, belly button is in, I'm flexing my quads, and turn the judges. So you're doing that mental checklist in your head. But when you get better and you practice it over and over and over, your body knows what to do. Right. So now I can just like walk and go into these things, and my body just knows what to do because of how many times I've done it over and over and over again.
But I've seen girls like Amy that came in like 4th or 5th in bikini. She's like a posing dynamo. She's been on my show a couple times. And I saw her like have a glitch. Like it's like you still have to compete in front of all these people and not be nervous or kind of get over it. Like, do you get nervous?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
I'll still get nervous on stage.
Okay.
One thing that I just tell myself before I walk on stage is like, I'm excited. I'm not nervous. I'm just excited. Because in your brain, it's the same kind of feeling.
It's the same
So you
energy,
just need to
100%.
direct it to being, no, I'm excited. And also, like, what would the most confident version of me do right now? And then I walk on that stage. Because a lot of times you can tell when someone's not confident on stage because they're not confident in themselves and what they're doing. It doesn't matter at the end of the day if you forget your routine. If you're confident enough when you walk on stage, no one's gonna know if you forgot your routine.
Right.
So say if I'm walking on and my routine and I start with my front pose and I'm supposed to go here and then here, and if I forget to do that and instead I go here and I forget to whip my hair, if you just know, okay, I'm confident, this is the most confident version of me, you would just, okay, let's just keep going. You would just keep going and be a professional.
Right.
Or you would glitch,
Right.
which of course you'd be, but I wasn't supposed to do it that way. So you just,
You lose it.
your body just ends up knowing what to do with practice.
Right.
And even when I learn a new pose, my body doesn't know what to do. I kind of like start back a little fresh. When
Right.
in my last show, we had to adjust. I had to learn a whole new pose that was very challenging, and I had to do it very, very fast. So when I did that, the way that I learned the best is by doing it over and over. So not just the whole routine over and over, but if I'm learning a specific pose, and for me, it was this one where I'm like, I walk and I pivot this left, and then I pivot right here, and then I go here. When I first learned that, my body was like, wait, and then this, and then I just go back to being a beginner at that point.
Right.
So I'll be in the gym and I'll be like left, right, slide. Okay, again, left, right, slide. And I just do that again and again and again until my body starts to pick it up.
Just grind it in the brain.
I don't pick things up fast at all. I was never a dancer. You teach me a combination, I'm like,
1, 2,
do it
3,
again.
4.
So just reps.
So all that,
the
lights, the people, the nervousness, and then you've also got to be sucking in your stomach. You've got to actually.
You got to smile.
You got to smile.
You got to connect with the judges.
There's so many other little things. You guys have so many things that you have to focus on.
Yep.
It is like you should get a trophy just for that.
Yeah. It's like that, like I was saying, that mental checklist, especially when you're first starting. When I first start teaching girls posing, there's a reason that you see the men's bodybuilders, when they're getting into their back pose, you see them, they start from the feet up. We all, as women, we do too. You see them set up back here, making sure that they're good, and then whatever they do.
Right.
It's just that when I'm doing that same thing. When I first get started and I've never posed before, I'm like, okay, my foot goes here. Okay, then my hip goes here. Check, check. Stomach is in and returning. It's very slow. But the more that you do it, then you see the women on stage, it's feet, hips, stomach, smile. And it's like boom, 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 boom. So hopefully that helps.
Talk to me about the funniest, weirdest pose. I don't get it. Like, I guess it is a men's sport and they want you to be sexy. The butt pose. It's so
this one?
Sexist. Yeah.
It only is if you make it. I know that the back pose has developed over time, because the back pose used to simply just, there was no arching or bending. It was simply, you were just here. Okay. And I think, I'm still very young in this sport, but I think that over time it has developed more into this.
That is showing your back and your glute and your tie-ins and the whole.
Not
the whole
necessarily
backside, right?
your back for
your
bikini
hair's-
and wellness, because your
right.
hair covers it, and they're
Right.
not necessarily judging you on your back muscles.
Okay.
But the purpose of it is to see your ham and your glute tie-in. So that's where your glute and your hamstring connect.
Right.
It's sexualized if you want to sexualize it. So when I first got into bodybuilding, of course, I was very concerned, like, what's my dad gonna think about me going on stage in my suit, going like, this on stage. But if you're thinking of it in a professional standpoint of,
Right.
I'm looking at this physique and I'm judging it in a bodybuilding lens, then it's not that way. But there will be people that sexualize it because, of course, like, it's like, you're like this.
Right.
So,
Right.
yeah.
Okay. Well, this has been great. I learned a lot, and I have building more and more respect for the girls that do bikini and wellness. It's just next level.